Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Turkish Philanthropy Fund's Voices of Partners. My name is Didem Altop, and I'm very excited. I'm always excited when I'm hosting these webinars, but I'm particularly excited of hosting today's November special edition. As you know, the Tuesday right after Thanksgiving is known as Giving Tuesdays, and that was just yesterday. So today, we're actually able to host some examples of the different type of donors that we're working with at the Turkish Philanthropy Fund. And each one of their stories is really, really mesmerizing and inspiring. And they've each taken a very different approach and angle and have a different motivation for giving, actually. So we're going to be exploring some of those journeys and some of those lessons learned. And I'm sure that everyone's going to be just as inspired as we are back at TPF. So today we have 4 esteemed panelists. We have Ahmet Bozer, who is a board member of TPF, and it's been a pleasure getting to know him over the past year. He's the former executive vice president of the Coca-Cola Company and the current advisory board member of Swire Coca-Cola, as well as a board member of Hepsi Burada and Esas Holding. And we have Dr. Fügen Neziroğlu, who's a PhD in board certified behavioral and clinical psychology from Hofstra. She's also a globally published author, literally with like over 14 books, I think, if I remember correctly, with an expertise in obsessive compulsive disorders and related issues. She has many roles, professional fellowship and roles, but she's the co-founder and executive director of the Biobehavioral Institute in Great Neck, New York. We also have with us Seray Incoğlu. She's a senior vice president and portfolio manager at PIMCO with expertise in commercial real estate. And I say that in one sentence, but it's actually quite a career journey, over 20 years of expertise in major significant activities in this space. So there's a lot to learn from her too. And then last but not least, we have Serhan Seçmen, who's the head of the United States CLO platform of Napier Park, which is a spin out from Citigroup's alternative investment arm. And it was really interesting. The reason why I specifically wanted to share your backgrounds is to showcase the diversity of them. Number one, like everybody has some of you are in finance, some of you are in psychology, others are in real estate. Many of you have a little bit of an investment finance background. The other commonality that I noticed about the 4 of you is that most of you studied both in Turkey and in the United States. So you studied and worked in the United States for some time too. So I'm wondering really how that infused kind of your philanthropic perspectives in life. But if we could just make a quick tour, first of all, I would really like to talk about why you believe in the importance of giving back. And before we go into your specific journeys, just in general, like philosophically, I would love to do a tour of why you believe in the importance of giving back and how you discovered philanthropy, whether it was at a young age, at a later age, and what's motivating you today to get involved. And I'm just going to go with the same alphabetical order that I started with, but maybe we could start with Ahmet Bey, if that's okay.
Thank you, Didem, and thank you for that wonderful introduction. Especially the nice thing you said about me. Thank you. Well, really, I keep it very short and sweet. Giving back is really for oneself. And as I think about it, it just, maybe I'll just share a quick story. I once decided to support a student go to medical college in Koç University. And making that decision was easy. But just in an introductory meeting where everybody was introducing themselves, and mostly those the other people who were supported by companies, I guess in the order of speaking, I was the first one who was just an individual supporting it. When I heard my name next to these companies, says, "Well, I'm sponsored by, or I'm Ahmet Bozer's. He sponsors me." It just made a strange feeling in me. It really did. It just had like, and it's very hard to explain these feelings. So it's that kind of experience. And then when you see the impact of that as the person graduates, becomes a doctor, have their own dreams to go to different parts of Anatolia and serve people. And then it just, that reward, that personal reward continues throughout the journey. And the other reason, I just found that giving really grows you. Especially depending on how you do it. If it's not just about money, if you get involved in what you're giving, you learn so much. And we can talk about some of those along the way. But to me, it's really for one's own benefit. It took, I can't say I'm totally there yet, but it takes one to sort of have a more enlightened level of self-interest. I don't claim to have it, but I certainly feel the progression towards it. And once somebody gets there, it's like you have to do it for yourself.
Just as a follow-on to your own experience, did you ever have an experience where somebody supported you and you're paying it forward? Or how did you even discover like this opportunity that philanthropic activity was going to be so rewarding?
Yeah, I think I can't remember, like I was fortunate to come from a family who was able to afford my education. But I think what got me to decide was the passion with which the person who was asking for this support shared the project. In fact, it was shared for the purpose of my company participating in it. But I just sort of felt so good about it as I listened to him. I wasn't sure if my company was going to be able to do it. I said, I will try, but I will personally certainly do it. It just came out in the meeting. It wasn't anything planned. So that's how it happens. And then that wasn't my first philanthropic experience, but that certainly was one that left a mark on me.
That left a mark. That's a wonderful perspective. Let's continue with Fügen. Fügen Hanım, what about your story? Why do you believe in the importance of giving back, and how did you get started on your philanthropic journey?
I think giving comes in all different forms, as Ahmet Bey was saying. It's not just financial giving, it's giving in various different ways, but the act of giving really is fulfilling not only to the individuals that you're giving to, but also, as pointed out earlier, it's fulfilling to oneself. I think it makes you feel good, and it's a growth process. And I think the more you give, the more you experience that, especially seeing sometimes the results of that giving. I think that, as a profession, I already chose a profession in which giving was a big part of it. And I devoted actually my whole career to giving. I did years and years of research with no funding, basically. So I gave in that way. And I was very fortunate because of my passion for my profession to have grown both professionally and economically. And at one point or another, it felt like I had to give back. I also observed my parents giving, and I thought that was really important. And I think I have a soft spot for those who don't have the opportunities that I have been very lucky to have in terms of my education, also being paid, but the emphasis that was placed on education in my family. So health, obviously, and education are two of my passion areas of giving. But I think you just learn it by observing it. But if you didn't observe it, I would just say, try little at a time, and you will begin to see how fulfilling it is to see the growth of other individuals who don't have your opportunities, even if it's little. Start little, and hopefully things will get better. But also, as Ahmet Bey pointed out, it's incredibly fulfilling for oneself.
It's so interesting too, because there's such a ripple effect, right? So it's fulfilling to you. You're helping kind of remove obstacles for some specific beneficiary or group of beneficiaries, but then they in turn create a multiplier effect in the communities that they live in. and maybe they're going to be the first in their families to go to university, and then they're going to elevate and, you know, keep passing it forward. So there's a whole domino effect, and it would be really interesting to see that in action, or like some chronology of, you know, over time, what happens to people, and where all the ripple effect reaches. Ultimately.
I think even within your own family, you serve as a role model for those who are of the younger generation. So if you talk about it and the importance of it, hopefully they will learn in turn to be able to do the same.
And Seray, shall we continue with you? You also have a very unique experience and very different perspective, but what motivated you originally?
I do echo what Fügen and Ahmet said earlier. You know, I've been very fortunate to be born into a very supportive and loving family. And I've had very supporting, you know, friends, family members, professors, colleagues throughout my life that made me sort of who I am today. And I've never really understood why some people are just lucky enough to be born with the chances that I had in life. But why across the world, there's a person just like me with the same abilities, the same desires in life, only they're born into a war in Ukraine or Iraq, or they're born into an abusive family or absent parents. And so I just firmly believe that, you know, we're all human, we're all connected in some way, shape, or form. And if there's anything that I can do to give back to my peers, then that's a privilege and an honor. And it's a self-fulfilling it's gift, I think.
Yeah.
Not for them, but for me.
It's interesting there's a trend obviously evolving, which is one of the main motivations for giving, beyond obviously the just being a good person. I think that people usually either they had a really positive experience and they want to share that with more people and let others also have that positive experience, or they had a negative experience and they're trying to fix it for the next generation or the next wave. So it tends that personal motivation for discovering philanthropy and philanthropic activity is probably the strongest. And there are many other motivations, but that's probably the strongest. Serhan Bey, shall we continue with you on this specific topic?
Sure. There's been a lot of wisdom that has already been shared on this topic. So I'd love to be maybe adding a little bit of my perspective. There are obviously various reasons people give, and it can range from your religious belief to your belief in the society. For me, it was a combination of multiple things. The first thing is I realized the things that I have in life was basically by good fortune. And I found myself in a position to really understand that some of the things that I've been given was given to me for free. Like my education in Turkey, we barely paid anything for it. And then earlier in my career, I received a lot of mentorship. And all of those things were in the good care of the people, either collectively or individually, caring for a member of the society to basically reach their potential. And you could be fooled easily that the success that you have is springing internally, right? And that's, when I was young and fool, that's what I thought. But soon I realized that I owe back to the society, I owe back to the people, and I owe back to the future generations that I need to be doing the same thing that other people had done for me, either anonymously or, you know, one-on-one. And that's part of the whole reason why I started thinking about giving back. And one person shared a very interesting story with me, and then ended up like this, and said that there are 3 phases in life. There's the learn, earn, and return. And it rhymes well in English, and that's why I wanted to, you know, maybe repeat it here. But it really inspired me to think about the things that really impacted in my life, and that I owe back to the society. And it is only natural for me to come to this stage in life when I learned and earned, and now it is time for me to share it. And it is not, as Ahmet Bey said, it is not only money, it is your time, your attention, your kindness, anything that you can give back to anybody who could benefit from it. And sometimes it is like there is a threshold energy. If you push somebody just a little bit in their lives, the little bit of a hurdle that they have in front of them, take it, you know what, they will just take off and become a new, totally new version, a better version of themselves. And they will be great for the society. They will be great for the people around them. And all of those things obviously make one feel great. But there's also one ulterior motive that I have. I want to leave this world as a better place than I started with. And I need to do this for my children, because every day with the social media now, you're getting exposed to all kinds of difficulties and you know, things that are not great around this world. But you know, it's our responsibility to take action and try to change it. And for the future generations, I'd like to make this world a better place, a safer place, a place where people will feel a lot more equal and valued. And that's why I give.
Fantastic. I really enjoyed that. Well, the learn, earn, and return is beautiful philosophy. I completely agree with you that the power of believing in someone has such a multiplier effect. I mean, if someone, you know, believes in you just a little drop, that one drop, like you said, that ultimate threshold, how much it catalyzes and compels people to rise to the occasion and really deliver. They become the best versions of themselves, of their communities, et cetera. It's not just people that we're giving to communities as well. And it's really transformative. Just that little bit of support and conviction and belief is transformative. And of course, this idea of being able to, you know, obviously we're working, we pay taxes, et cetera. But, you know, through philanthropy, you really do have a tool of participating in shaping the world to the better place that you imagine it could be, into living up to its potential for all people, actually. So it's quite wonderful. So in our next round, I would really like to talk about the different ways that you're giving, and everyone has a different approach. Each of you has a very different approach. Ahmet Bey is working with donor advised funds. Fügen Hanım is involved in legacy giving. Seray Hanım is involved in capacity building for NGOs, and Serhan Bey has a giving circle approach to his giving. I'm really hoping that we could also do another tour, and then if that's okay, I'll go in the same order. But maybe you could talk about that approach in itself, like what it means and how you've been collaborating with the Turkish Philanthropy Fund to fulfill some of your objectives. So with Ahmet Bey, we could start with donor advised funds. And I believe you've also incorporated matching gift campaigns in your donor advised funds. Could you tell us about what you've been doing with those activities and how TPF has been helpful?
Sure. Thanks, Didem Altop. If it's okay, I'd like to say just a few words about TPF first. You know, when you try to do something as an individual in this world, which I've been experiencing since I retired from Coke 6 years ago, really the only way to do something with impact is to work with the right partners. You know, place yourself into the right ecosystem. And TPF, in that sense, is exactly the right partner for Turkish Americans who live in the United States. You know, the quality of its work is to one side, and they're, you know, every year I feel as a board member, you know, we're just growing our capability and getting better in what we do. So that is one thing, but also, you know, Turkey has this magic that no matter when you came here, no matter how engaged you might have remained with Turkey, most people still have this attraction to Turkey, which is well warranted. We just can't, it's in our hearts. And in addition to TPF being a, you know, great high quality organization, for Turkish Americans to realize their philanthropic dreams in Turkey. It also sort of feeds that feeling when you're together with the community, when you hear the stories, your connection to your own country enlivens, and it gets deeper and richer. So it's another. Now, donor-advised funds, I learned about them first time from Haldun Bey in a conversation. It made a lot of practical sense because some people try to do their own foundations, which is fine. But why do you need to do that? You know, you just can't set up a donor-advised fund in a community foundation and let people manage that. You can still direct your philanthropic funds to where you want them to go, provided they're decent, approved NGOs, if you will. So to me, it made a lot of practical sense. Yeah, there's of course the financial and tax advantages of that. You know, certain years you can make big contributions, and then you know that money is there for your philanthropic needs, and you can spend it as you wish. So those are other practical considerations. But to me, I thought of it like I have my own foundation. It's just within TPF. It's called the Donor Advised Fund, and then obviously. The only other thing I'd say is that through working with TPF and some of the other things I've been trying to do, I really have realized how incredibly developed the Turkish NGOs landscape has become. When you follow certain media outlets, you might feel a bit pessimistic about Turkey, but when you look at the grassroots level, I think the forces for good are alive and well, and they need our support. And I learned that through TPF.
I mean, you have, it's called donor advised funds, right? So I love how you described it. Actually, it's like having your own foundation within a community-based activity. It makes so much efficiency sense and valuable contributions in terms of quality control and just kind of in implementing best practices, etc. But you yourself have played a very hands-on role in that activity. I think that education is your area of main interest, of primary interest, and you've been making partner introductions, like identifying nonprofits in Turkey that maybe should be working with TPF, and you've been making those type of active introductions. You've also helped support some of those campaigns with matching gifts, right? So for every dollar that's raised, you're matching those gifts, etc. So you've taken a very hands-on approach to what could also be a passive vehicle if you wanted it to be, but you've turned it into an active one.
Right, and that really ties back to my other point on why it's good for you. That grew me. I learned so much by being involved. Now, obviously we don't have to impose ourselves, but usually, when a hand from America, somebody who has accomplished things in their professional lives is interested, people do call. They say, well, can you help us here? Can we talk about this? We have strategy meetings with these NGOs, and they often call. And it was one of those moments where, because of COVID, one of their sponsors cut funding off, and they had to raise funds for that. And TPF, that's where the matching gifts came to the rescue. And I wasn't going to be able to do it alone, but when we did it together.
There you go.
And it was amazing that after that, not only we raised the amount of funds they needed, somehow she called me, she says, Ahmet abi, something amazing has happened. Right after that, it seems like so many other people came to us, and we're now getting support from so many places. We now have to talk about how we're going to spend this money. So I said, that was wonderful. So yeah, there are all these wonderful soft factors in working.
I feel like I'm overusing the phrase multiplier effect, but it's very much true. So whenever a nonprofit organization starts to become successful in fundraising, it really creates momentum for them to raise more money. So that snowball effect is also quite fascinating. I think that just momentum is another big part of, I think, how exciting it is to be able to be part of that story. And Fügen Hanım, your story is a little bit different, and actually it's something I would really personally like to learn about, because I think you approach your activities through legacy giving, if I understand correctly. Was it in honor of your father or your mother?
Both.
Well, so both of your parents. Okay, so could you tell us about what legacy giving is,
Sure.
and how you've been working with TPF from that front?
Okay. After my father's death, my mother wanted to actually, I think, probably typical of that era, wanted to open up a school in honor of my father. And over the years, she kept asking me to look into different ways to do it. And when I went to Turkey and investigated, my fears were that they were converting these schools that people had opened up into more religious schools. And I said, Mom, really, I don't know that this is a really good route for us. She said, well, you got to do something. You got to find something to do. And years were going by, and I said, okay. So I was looking around and I saw TPF and I go, well, they seem to have a lot of organizations that they're connected to. And I thought, well, how can we do this? And I asked Mom, I said, listen, what if we just set up in your name and Dad's name a scholarship fund? And we started giving money. My mom and Dad had been supporting kids on their own, their education, as Ahmet Bey was saying before. So there was already this trend of supporting people in Turkey directly, though, and not through some organized fashion. And when I saw TPF had, oh my God, all these different avenues of giving, they were also giving in terms of health and to other countries that really didn't have wells or means of, women who could maybe learn to earn their own. My father was a feminist, and he was very much into women being able to stand on their own feet, and economic independence was the only way that anyone could really have a voice. So, helping women in underprivileged areas. So there was already this direct giving, but she wanted a more organized, and TPF looked like a very, very organized, very established, and I would say, well-run place. And I just tried to contact someone there to see if I could find out a little bit more. I spoke to Haldun Bey, and we spoke about, and I had heard and was looking into donor advised funds as well, and then decided, well, maybe that was a route to give a scholarship for Mom in honor of my mom and dad. So that's how it started. And then myself, all along, because my father had said to me, when I die, you are going to continue the education of these kids, right? Like I had a choice.
Right.
Sure,
May he
Dad.
rest in peace.
Yeah, whatever you say. Here are the people, and you can't let them down. I said, no, I won't. So, so I had already been helping individually. So when he died, I continued, and then through TPF, I found a different way of continuing their legacy of giving. It's their legacy that started it. So it's their legacy, and of course, my own need to give back, learn, earn, and share. I love that. So.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like it's now this tradition, right? Legacy giving has become a way to establish continuity for our family tradition, which is really quite elegant. It's a beautiful story. May your father rest and family rest in peace. That's a beautiful, beautiful story, and what a great family value to have in any case. Seray, you've been involved in capacity building, from what I understand. So you've been working with, I think, 1 or 2 NGOs in Turkey to build their capacity specifically. Could you talk a little bit about your activities there and how you work together with TPF?
Yeah, sure. So I think just as others had stated, I had been involved in giving back, whether it was from direct contributions or through nonprofit organizations to date. But during the pandemic, something happened where I started to, I had more time being at home and just the daily stresses of work or trying to manage two kids who are trying to learn from home, and then just seeing the issues, kind of the mental issues and financial issues that the people were facing. I got into practicing mindfulness. So, and I think we all know about mindfulness now. I got into it a little bit late, but it teaches us to focus on the present and weather the daily pressures of life. And it has, countless benefits from decreasing depression and anxiety and improving overall well-being. And I knew that there's a big issue with suicide among teenagers due to depression. 20% of teenagers experience depression at any given time. And there is a suicide of a teenager every 100 minutes in the world, which to me is just not acceptable. And I think that our current education system, whether it's the US or Turkey, is lacking just, teaching kids ways to cope with the challenges of life, whether it's, social media or poverty or war or COVID. And so I wanted to have this specialized program of crafting, my mindfulness seminar for teenagers in Turkey. And, I'm a researcher. I didn't really know where to start. So TPF was a great avenue for me because I know that they vet all of the nonprofits and really do the heavy lifting where, I wouldn't have the time to do that. And so, just by having 2 or 3 meetings, TPF was able to source a nonprofit organization, come up with a project plan and budget, and we carefully crafted it, and they were able to basically make this project happen, and not only did they do kind of all of that work, but I was also able to double because of the tax benefits, kind of my contribution. So I just think it's a great way, more hands always speak louder than just one hand. So I'm happy to have found TPF.
Let's give a shout out to the organization that you partnered with. Which group was that's doing mindfulness now in Turkey?
Çağdaş.
Yeah, wonderful. And this is exactly just what we were talking about in the beginning of our conversation. One was you had a personal experience that you wanted more people to benefit from. And then the second part was you're actually working with Çağdaş Yaşama Destekleme Derneği to shape the world that you want to see, like to really, make the world a better place. So kudos, that's a beautiful story. It's wonderful. Thank you so much. And Serhan Bey, so now we're going to talk about giving circles, which is also a little bit of a mystery to me, because I always wonder how you pick the topics that you're going to give to, how you organize, because it seems so much like the Knights of the Round Table, right? So there's not like a leader or so, it's a circle. How do you really manage a giving circle, and how do you pick, and how do you choose, and how do you organize? Exactly.
Great. So first, just follow Ahmet Bey's lead. I'd like to say a few things about TPF, what it means for our circle. Any civilization, anything that is worthwhile mentioning that is done by men has always been built upon an infrastructure. You just build the infrastructure, you put the foundation, and then you build upon. Without TPF, there wouldn't be anything for us to be able to provide. So that is very, very important for us to emphasize. And the infrastructure is very important for 2 avenues. One of them is legal infrastructure. Obviously, there's a lot of legal and tax implications, and the second is the technological. There is definitely a advantage that we utilize coming from TPF on how we organize our fundraising activities. So with that background, I'd like to bring back to your question about the Giving Circle, how we picked the topic, how we formed the community. The first thing is that everybody has a circle of friends, right? And those circle of friends are bound in a very nebulous way. And sometimes there are connections and individuals, but there's sometimes a collective association, whether through a school or through an activity that you shared. But nonetheless, there's always a group of people that you have around you that you find that, you have a lot of common things that you share with. And the way that we see as our community, as our group of friends, is that there are 4 things that bind us. The first thing is that we like entertaining each other. That's, I guess one of the niceties of life. We get to share, food, we get to share vacations and things like that. So this is the first binding factor. The second is that we teach each other. So there are so many things that are worthwhile knowing and learning about in this world, but you can only reach out to so many. But if you have friends that are doing that for you, and now there's a filtering mechanism that basically accelerates that. So it's another form of bond that puts people together. And then the third thing is people support each other. And whenever they need help on either professional or personal dealings, that this becomes a community that can support each other. And then the fourth, and then probably the most important element, is that these group of people that share these first 3 bonds, if they have something that they can collectively be proud of, then you can start calling that a community. And for that, we chose that we will collectively do something that we will all be proud of. And after a very brief brainstorming session, it just sprung. It was basically contributing to the education of girls in Turkey. It was very crystal, very to the point, very precise like that. First, why education? Well, it is very simple. I mean, for us to take the society to the next level, where each member of it feels that they are valued, that they're contributing, they're adding something to this world, you need education to catapult people to that. And the magic of Cumhuriyet, the republic in Turkey, had created for us many generations ago, for my grandfather and my father, is that it gave that opportunity to a lot of people that otherwise didn't have it, so that they had their education, so that they could, send their kids to America for college, as they did with me. And I wanted to continue giving to a cause that would help the education be that lubricator for people to move forward. And then why girls? So that, again, is definitely a very, very important point for us, because when you find a family that is, in need of, let's say, springing themselves to the next generation, when you elevate the woman, when you elevate the girls, you elevate the entire family and then the entire community, because they have a way of nurturing the people around them, and whatever you do propagates. It multiplies in a way that you're not only helping one person to dig themselves out of their misfortune, but you're helping a girl come out of that community. You're inherently helping everybody around them. And also you're inspiring everybody, all the other girls and the boys, everybody, to value each other regardless of their gender, regardless of their background. That was very important for us. And that's why we focus on girls and girls' education. And we do it through multiple organizations in Turkey. But most importantly, we found over the years, this giving circle just made our group of friends turn into a tight-knit community, because there's something that we are proud of. And two points actually I'd like to make. One of them is, as the bad things in life actually propagate and they somehow trigger each other, so are good things. And if you do goodwill, if you do something nice, if you're even like kind to a person, you are starting to trigger a function that propagates with the rest of that person's interactions throughout the day. And the same with giving, like you inspire other people who are either seeing, observing, receiving, or getting the call from you, like, look, I'm giving this, can you give a little bit alongside with me? That just propagates. And that is for us very, very important. And that's what we found that through this experience, that we found that we are bringing the best in each other. The second thing that I'd like to highlight is that giving is very important. As we mentioned before, financial means is not the only way to give, yes, but even in the financial means, it is very important to give. The amount does not really matter. You can adjust that amount afterwards. The habit of giving, regardless, in our circle, there are people who are giving 5 figures for every campaign that we do. There are people who are giving 2 figures or every campaign that we do. The amount doesn't really matter. For us, it is equally important, equally valuable. If you can afford $20, just give us $20. If you can afford $20,000, just give us $20,000. And I think those are the two important things that I found that I learned through my experience on Giving Circle.
I think the Giving Circle is just fascinating. And I love like the flexibility, the inclusiveness. Just out of curiosity, how many people are in your Giving Circle?
We have a little bit short of 60 people altogether.
Wow.
But
did it start with 60 people or did it start with like 5 people?
The original group had started roughly about 15 of us. As I mentioned, it was like a group of friends, and just 4 of us decided to be the face of it, but there's a larger group that is representing it. And then over time, it grew up to 60 people right now.
That's incredible. I'm so inspired. This has been such a wonderful conversation. We're running a little bit towards the end of our time. I would love to get your final kind of thoughts or maybe a call to action from each of you. Perhaps you might address, advice for the next generation of philanthropists, which we've been sharing all along, actually. Maybe you could also comment on how we might strengthen our Turkish American giving community in general. Maybe we have some ideas that we could try exploring. But we've also mentioned, just starting to someplace and learning and growing along the way seems to be the best practice overall. But maybe we can do a final tour with your thoughts and your closing call to action statements. Ahmet Bey.
Okay, thanks again. Well, I'd say how can we strengthen the Turkish American community or make us give more and impact more? I don't really have too much to say other than recognizing that the pandemic sort of cut down on the richness and the depth of the communication we can have with one another. You decide to do these things when you really have an engaging conversation with someone, and that usually happens when it's live. So the more we can increase dialogue and share what we do and position TPF as the best bridge between somebody living here who wants to support Turkey, I think that's all I could say. And my advice to the next generation philanthropists would be I'll just say 2 things. choose your partners wisely. And I'm not talking about TPF here. I'm talking about the NGOs in Turkey. I have been especially impressed with the team at these NGOs. But these are young people in their 30s, mostly girls. Their leadership, they're not aware, but they have incredible leadership qualities in them. And the operating model of this NGO, is it efficient, etc., their track record. So be a bit diligent on how you choose your partner, because that's where I think most of it is, most of the impact comes from. And the second one is, it's more topical here maybe than it is in Turkey, but it's getting harder and harder to stand for what's right, because we're all open to manipulation with incredible things going on in social media, headlines that grab your emotions and that take you somewhere. So I'd say resist that and really stand for what is right, and just avoid flavor of the times exaggerations. We have a lot of that here in this country, and I think we have some of that in Turkey as well. So sharpen your moral compass, be really diligent on what's right and what you want to support, and then choose your partners wisely. That would be my 2 cents.
Wonderful awareness level points to raise. Thank you so much. Very elegant. Fügen Hanım?
I was going to say, in terms of the future generation, there's a whole group of students in the United States that children who are raised here and others who have come from Turkey. But I think perhaps reaching out to the university level students and engaging them in fundraising with some cause or another, or partnering with one of TPF's connections, might be a great idea to get that generation to start giving. And it could be just doing something like a small fundraising among themselves for a particular cause.
Beautiful idea. Really beautiful idea, actually.
And it also brings awareness to TPF. I don't really know how many people out there in the community actually know of TPF. And I think the perception may be that you have to be quite wealthy to be a part of the group. And I think that that's something that needs to be perhaps changed, so that, as was pointed out by Serhan Bey, that people can give $20, or they can give by volunteering their services, or they could do other things. It doesn't have to be that you have to be wealthy to be a part of TPF.
Very important point. Again, another piece of important awareness to have. Very, very, very clear. Actually, very nice. Seray Hanım?
So I guess my one call for action would be, whoever is watching this, either now or I guess it's recorded, so at a later date, maybe spend 5-10 minutes, even while this conversation is going on, or afterwards, to think about what's helped you in your life, whether it was, some book that you read, a professor, a friend that supported you, or a stranger that supported you, or said, asked you how your day was when you were having a tough day, and give that back to the community. So you could donate the book that you read that you loved, you could donate your old clothes, you could donate money, you could donate your time, but just, spend 5-10 minutes. It's not a long time. I know it's really, sometimes we all want to do good, but nobody has time anymore just in this society. But it really just takes a very small amount of time to give back. And then, as you were saying, Didem, like about the multiplier effect, Serhan was saying it propagates everything. You could also think of it like yawning, like, when I yawn, probably most of you are going to yawn, and then whoever's watching it is going to yawn. So just start small, and then it'll have this amazing effect.
It's so wonderful. So we had the awareness from Ahmet and Fügen, and of course you tied it back to mindfulness. Of course you did, which is wonderful. But it also reminded me of the book, The Tipping Point. I don't know if you've had the opportunity to read it, but it talks about like the broken window campaign. There was a neighborhood where windows were broken, so everybody felt okay about throwing garbage because the windows were broken anyway. And then all of a sudden they fixed the broken windows, and then people started not throwing garbage and painting their front sidewalk and cleaning. Like literally you can create contagious activities that snowball, and that can go to the negative, but it can also go to the positive, which is exactly what you were just summarizing. So the tipping point, I think, is really interesting. Serhan Bey, shall we close with you?
Well, thank you. I'm honored to be part of this panel. First of all, thank you very much for having all of us here. I don't have much to add because there's been so much wisdom that's already been shared so eloquently. The one thing that I'd like to add is for those who are listening to us, this is an opportunity. This is an opportunity at many layers. But if nothing else, we are all expats living away from our motherland. And maybe this is your new land that you call, that's fine. But we have a connection to a community that is far away from here. And we always feel like we'd like to be part of a community. We miss our friendships or relatives back in Turkey. This is a great opportunity. This TPF and the Giving Circle is a great opportunity for you to find a cause. It could be anything you like. And rally your friends, rally your close circle around them, and use that as a tool to bind with each other. And that's what we did, and we're very, very happy about it. And I definitely, highlight the things that Sarah was mentioning about like giving and how it somehow liberates your soul as well. And either it could be a book that you share, it could be an idea that you could share. It doesn't really have to be money. It doesn't have to be a large sums. As Fügen Hanım was mentioning, there's a misperception that, oh, you have to be rich to give. No, you have to be rich inside to give. You don't have to be wealthy to give.
Bravo. Bravo. Well, there's so many quotable moments from all of your points. Thank you so much. We are out of time, but I would like to say thank you to our panelists, our speakers, for sharing their experiences in such a heartwarming and sincere way. Really, you were very vulnerable in your storytelling, and it was very helpful. Actually, there are so many lessons and so many gems in our conversation. Thank you. I don't want to turn this into something transactional, but really it is the end of the year. And if you are planning to maybe donate this year and benefit from the year end, tax deductions, et cetera, now is a really good time to start researching. And if you would like to explore and experiment, the TPF team is ready and waiting to help you plan your own journeys actually moving forward. And it's really easy to contact them through www.tpfunds.org. And the team can help you with any of these models of giving, actually donor advised funds, legacy giving, capacity building, giving circles. And I'm actually personally going to start experimenting with a little bit with each of them. You've been personally very inspiring to me too. So thank you so much. And happy holidays as we're moving into December. Best wishes to all of you. May your good karma in the world return to you 100-fold. Thank you.
Thank you all. It was wonderful.
Thank you.
And Didem Hanım, especially thank you for your wonderful moderation.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.